So in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about how to differentiate between a good business to buy or a bad business to buy. So when you go on the journey of doing your first acquisition, you would be making a lot of calls and you would be talking to a lot of people and you would be visiting a lot of businesses. So over the last few years, I have spoken to over 300 businesses and I have met many of them. I've taken, rides to their business. I've met their employees. I've looked how the businesses are structured, where they are located, and it's a tedious process. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how to identify a good business and what are the early signs of a good business versus a bad business. So I was told that if you find a good business, you would kind of know it right away intuitively. And I didn't believe it. I was like, how is that possible? You don't really know whether something is good or bad until you look at the books. And that is true in practicality and in actuality. Yes, ultimately it's about what's on the financial statements and what's on the licenses and these documents are very important. But you can also tell a lot by the operations, looking at the operations. And because the financial statement is just a reflection of the operations. And you can look at it, looking at the attitude of the staff, looking at the owner, looking at the location and the place in general, the whole energy and vibe of the place. I'll give you an example. Some of the worst businesses that I have seen come in the range of $500,000 to $1 million. That's the range where you would find the nastiest looking businesses that you can find. Some of these businesses, I went inside and it had maybe 1 or 2 doctors, a few nurses, bad receptionist. All of them are being paid low salary. The interiors are not renovated. It has a cheap car outside and you can barely even see the clinic or see the business, because it's almost like they wanted to hide away from the public eye. And you can see the character of the owner rubbing off the entire business by the employees that person hire, by the location that they choose. And it's almost like they're hiding in a corner. You go into the business, it has got paper lying all around the place. Everything is disorganized and there are little or no customers in the business. And it's kind of like a dingy place, but guess what? Because it's in a good industry, it's still making some money and they're just barely surviving and they can get wiped out anytime. So that would be an example of a bad business, but you could see these things even before you look at the books. I would just have a conversation with the owner and I would ask him, how much are you making? And he would tell me what he's making. And if he's saying they are not profitable, or if he's saying that it's a 8% or 10% margin, it's obviously lesser than that, because he would always say a higher number than what the reality is. So in those cases, I just walk off and I don't even talk to them. And it's not so much about motivated or not motivated at that point, because the business is not even valuable. So that's an example of a bad business. You could also see, there was one time I went into one of the first businesses I entered into. The receptionist, there was a guy and a girl, and I had an appointment with the owner and they asked me to wait for a few minutes. I sat down and I could see that these guys were trying to be romantic with each other. And they just kind of ignored me, and they were, I think, holding hands or sharing some images and files on their mobile phone, and that's just in the daytime. So right away you can see an indication that the owner doesn't have control over the place. And then I meet the owner and the clinic is empty and it was a total mess. And then when I inquired a little bit on the numbers, I knew that this is not the type of business that I want to acquire. Now there is another example of a business which is a good business, and I go in and there is a Rolls Royce parked outside, a Range Rover, a Porsche, and it has like a big facility. It's a big facility and it's thriving. It's full of staff members. They have clean clothes. They're dressed properly. They look great. They're all, they look like they had taken a bath, and they were actually excited about their work, and they were greeting. Somebody came to get me right away and say, "Oh, you want to meet Dr. So-and-so?" Sure. It had a lift inside. The interior work had done. I mean, you could smell money. When a business makes money, it spends money. And you could smell the money coming in, and you could see it was a cosmetic surgery clinic. So you could see like very beautiful women as their customers who had come for their cosmetic procedures. And they had come in nice cars. They were wearing nice watches. You could see the clientele right away. And then I met the doctor. He was wearing I think $100,000 watch. I could recognize that watch, and he had a very powerful presence. And just because it's a good business doesn't mean he's a motivated seller and he's going to give you his business for a small price. But you could see from the business that this is north of what you want, and this is the type of business that you might want to consider leveraging with the bank for financing. Because ultimately the asset, the quality of the asset, the quality of the cash flow, and the price at which you buy and how you structure the deal, all of that the financing is going to be based on. So it's very important that you look at these early indicators, and then obviously you can then decide whether you want to go deeper into it or not. Because every deal that you look at, every business that you look at, it costs time, and typically you're on a short time frame, and you want to look at these few things and make an assessment. Another indicator is the age of the business owner, and you can indicate how motivated that person is going to be. And then there was another example, which was a $25 million business. So when I wanted to meet them, they had booked a conference room in a 5-star hotel in Abu Dhabi, and they had a big conference. They had booked a big conference room. It had my name written on it. When I arrived, they had a hotel receptionist waiting for me to receive me. And then I went there, and the shareholders of the business were there. There were 3 of them. And there was a CEO, a designated CEO, around 50 years old and very experienced. I had met that guy. He used to work for some other company, and now he worked for them. And he greeted me, and and we started the meeting, and it was just absolutely amazing. Their financials were audited from Big Four, KPMG, Deloitte, Ernst & Young, like 3 different accounting firms. Their audited financials. Every year it was audited by a different firm, and the guys were just high quality. The whole thing was high quality, and I looked at the financial statements. Everything was clear. Because some of these businesses, if you look at the financial statements, some of the bad businesses, you cannot understand anything. It's all over the place. It's a chaos. So chaos is a sign of not a healthy governance. And when things are organized and structured, and they give you the information right away, and it's very clean and clear, and they're not trying to hide anything, it's upfront, then you can see that this is something intuitively you can tell that this sounds like a good deal. We have to go deeper. We have to look at the deal with our advisors, lawyers, financial professionals, operations, and we have to look at it from many perspectives. And right away, when I went to our healthcare expert, my business partner, and I asked him, "What do you think about them? Have you heard about their name?" And they were like, "They have a pristine reputation, and they are a good business, and we should look deeper into it." Now it's just a question of price that we have to agree upon, but the business itself is good. And even if we have to pay a little bit higher and be a little bit creative with the deal structure, this sounds like a very healthy business. So that's how, the contrast of the businesses. Now, sometimes the business doesn't look that bad, but the owner is in his young age, and he's not been looking to sell at a discounted price, and it's not, the deal is not going to work out even if the business is good. So what's hard to find is a very good business with motivated seller. That's like have to make a lot of calls, do a lot of meetings, and kiss a lot of frogs, as my mentor says. And so that's the thing that's hard to find. But I just wanted to make a video about how to look at, identify a bad business versus a good business. Hope you like it. If you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you soon.